Today's episode of the Energy is Love podcast is brought to you by coffee, the magic elixir that makes everything go. I probably drink anywhere from 10 to 25 cups of coffee a day. So if you've never tried coffee, I highly recommend checking it out. It can be found pretty much anywhere and everywhere. Go to your local coffee retail location and get yourself a cup of coffee. Thank you everybody for tuning in to another wonderful episode of the podcast. Remember, all of our episodes are available on our website, energyislovepodcast.com. If you haven't yet, go to YouTube. Yeah, do this. Like, if you haven't done this yet, go to YouTube and subscribe to the Energy is Love podcast YouTube channel. I don't care if you don't listen on YouTube. I think we have some people that listen on YouTube. We do have some people that listen on YouTube. It doesn't make sense to me. However, it's there if you'd like to listen. And even if you don't listen to us through YouTube, go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Do it real fast, real quick for me, please. This episode is episode 99. I'm trying to think, how many times did I say episode in that sentence? This episode is episode 99. I guess just 2. And it's a pretty special episode. I'm pretty pleased to have these 3 amazing men on the podcast. So what it is I'm sure you've heard me talk before on previous episodes about a men's group and the work with Everyman. That's a wonderful organization. Go to everyman.co, everyman.co. But last year I went on this big Yellowstone expedition. It was the Everyman's first expedition that they held. And it was wonderful. It was amazing. It was life-changing, fantastic, all sorts of good stuff. And when I got home, I started up a men's group in Salt Lake City. It was something that I had been working on for quite some time, and then finally was able to get everything and all the pieces pulled together. And now we meet every Monday once a week, and we sit in this men's group. And these guys... First off, we've got Steven Roccazzella. You've heard him on the podcast recently. William Carter, who was also on previous episodes of the podcast back in the day. And then Michael Wade. These 3 guys sit in the men's group, and we've been going at it for 4 or 5 months, 3 months, something like that. Quite a while. But it's incredible. It's an amazing experience. It's one of those things that I look forward to every week. It's helped me in so many different ways. And like I said, you've probably heard me talk about it before. But for this episode, the 4 of us sat down, and not only do we talk about kind of what the men's group is, but more importantly, how it's affected each and every one of us, the benefits that we've gotten from it. And then we kind of get into a whole bunch of stuff, which was really fun. We talk all about masculinity in society and all these kind of different aspects of what men are supposed to be and how they are and all these kind of different things. And so the conversation just goes all over the place, but it was really, really fun. These guys are amazing. I love each and every one of them. And so I love getting to share this with the listeners of the podcast. Hopefully, if you live in the area, like if you live in Salt Lake City or anywhere in northern Utah and you're interested, please reach out to us. You're more than welcome to come and join the men's group. Sit in one of the meetings and check it out and see what it's like. If you are listening all around the world, you can obviously reach out anytime if you go to our website, energyislovepodcast.com. If you've got questions or anything like that, feel free to contact me. And I also encourage you to go check out Everyman. Go check out their website. They've got a wealth of information there. And if you're not in a men's group, I suggest finding a men's group. If you can't find one, I suggest starting one. It's amazing. But for now, sit back and enjoy. It's a super fun episode with myself, Will, Steven, and Mike. Thank you guys for doing the podcast. It was a lot of fun. Love you. Here we go.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
That's totally long enough. Was anyone else holding their breath, or is that just me?
Slowly breathing through my nose.
Okay. There's people all the time that don't. Like, they'll sit there and be like, I need it as silent as possible. And they're like, okay. or they're like, be like,
Right.
moving around and touching shit. And I'm like, you need to be quiet. You don't understand when I say quiet. I mean total quiet.
I took you literally.
Yeah.
I didn't want to move.
So I'm excited because this is going to be, I've done big episodes like this before where we've got multiple people on. But this is something special for me and I'm excited to do it. So the first thing we'll do so that everybody understands who the hell's talking when somebody actually talks is everybody take just a moment and introduce themselves. You don't have to give them like your backstory or your life story by any means, just so they understand who the hell's talking.
Okay. I'm Steven Roccazzella. I've been on the podcast once before.
That's right.
I'm glad to be back. Glad to be with you fellas tonight.
I'm Michael Wade. First time on any podcast. Glad to be on.
Wow. Steve, that was very like radio DJ of you. Like that was like Slick Rick style.
Oh, nice. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. You're like old hat now. Totally comfortable.
Yeah, I'm a little more comfy this time around.
That's awesome. I'm William Carter. I was on your podcast before and you challenged the shit out of me. So
That was a long time ago too.
that was last summer.
Yeah, I don't even
So
remember.
that was a hot minute ago. And now I'm happily helping with another one and very excited to be doing this again. So
Yes. And so people listening to this episode got the little introduction that I do with every episode so they at least have some context for why the hell it's the four of us sitting down here. But one of the first things that I want everybody to kind of take a moment and I guess we've all been in this group, in this men's group now for a few months, and we all have a really good understanding of what it is, the capacity that it has to help people, help ourselves, help each other in this space. I feel like we all have a really firm grasp of what that is, but now we all get the opportunity to try to fucking verbalize that and explain that in some way, shape, or form. So if you were going to give somebody a spiel about not just our men's group, but I guess you could use just our men's group as an example because that's obviously what we're most familiar with. But why would somebody want to come to this? What are they going to get from it? How are they going to benefit? Really just try to sell somebody on the idea of what it is that we do here.
Do we just say, I mean, any of us, right?
Absolutely, man. Whoever wants to go first.
So I think as I've approached people, the biggest point I try to make is it's one, a support group for men, but it's also two, a great way just to hone your listening skills. The biggest thing I noticed when I first started coming as opposed to where I'm at now was I'm a better active listener due to the fact that one of the rules is you don't give advice, you don't try to relate, you just listen and you guide their emotions. And that's, I feel, helpful in personal life and business life. And I think a lot of men struggle with that. I know my first few times coming, it was like, I want to say something, but I don't know what to say because you took away all the tools I've learned my whole life. Now I've had to redevelop those. That's been one of the biggest things I've tried to tell people as I've tried to talk about this group.
I think that's a huge one. Do you know what I mean? And that's
Absolutely.
one that is probably maybe not necessarily like the standout thing that you would necessarily sell people on. And obviously we're not trying to sell anybody on anything, but
Right.
that's one of those things that you necessarily wouldn't know or recognize or hear about unless you actually came and showed up and had that experience. And so that's super cool, man. I totally agree with you.
Oh yeah, it was an eye-opener for my first time.
Yeah, I love that you said active listening because it reminds me too to slow down. I mean, I pride myself on being a great listener, but I got very caught up the first couple of weeks of just like, oh, same boat. Like I really want to say something or like, oh, there's a nugget I want to tell you. Nope. Just not going to do that because it's going to come across like advice. And,
We still do that too.
we do.
And
We
it's
do.
so like that whole dynamic of just sitting and listening to somebody without offering advice, without trying to help them fix whatever it is that they're going through or experiencing, or giving your 2 cents. Like that's another really big thing where I want you to hear my part of the story that I related to in that, so that you can see that I'm in that space with you and I'm connecting with you because of what you're talking about. I've gone through similar things and now we have a shared experience and we can bond over that.
Right.
I mean, that's very human, I think, in nature. And it's so hard to resist doing that. It's so hard to try to get down in there with somebody and be like, it's okay, buddy. I've been through the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
Go ahead.
What was the question again? Just what our experience is?
Well, yeah, like not only what your experience is, but if you were trying to convince somebody, or if you were trying to explain to somebody else who has never been here or really knows what this is about, how would you explain it?
I would say it's an experience. When I come here, it's like I come in the door, I see you guys, and I am in a spiritual way shedding off my clothing and hopping into the pool. And it's warm and it's inviting and it's cozy and it's a safe place. You know, there is a thought current that develops between the four of us when we start jiving with each other, and it's just a really great place to be.
Yep.
And I do love being able to put my attention onto another human being and just be part of that experience with them. You know,
that's great.
You know, feel what they're feeling, hear what they're saying. You know, what the hell is so funny about that?
The sexual innuendo is just dripping from everything that you said.
Well, I'm on a dry spell right now, so pretty much anything that comes out of my mouth is gonna, in some way, shape, or form, relate back to that.
I'd like to challenge you to go a bit deeper, because you dive deeper than most do in this group, and I've experienced. Like you feel things where I want to feel things. It's probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
So I want you to dive deeper as far as maybe even a little bit of the impact then that it's had.
Oh, this has been absolutely life-changing for me. You guys are my brothers, and I love you. And this is really the one place where I feel like I can come and just completely let go and completely be myself without judgment, without any reservations. Like I just let it go, because I got a lot inside of me that's been pent up for a real long time, and I've needed something like this to get it out, and also to hear what you guys are going through and to feel. I mean, there's been times when in this group when I've been, just observing an interaction between, two of you guys, and I just break down. And I'm feeling it. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to think about anything. I can just be completely immersed in that moment with you guys. And that's beautiful. I love it. Makes me feel great. So, is that good? Does that help?
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Beautiful.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's where I want to be. Just completely open-hearted, open-minded, and just be in the moment and feel whatever there is to be felt, whatever that energy is, whatever that emotion is. I just want to feel it because it's good.
Like a second home is the sense I get.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
What do you think, Will?
Those are two responses that are pretty hard to follow.
They did a good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I take a combination of both of them. Active listening is really important to me because it's we're so inundated by information, and it's very hard for me to decompress. So when I go home, there is added stress of just being at home. You kind of switch into another hat, and you're worried about bills and cycles and just everything else. So when I'm here, I guess, to be frank, it took me a while to really shed my skin. There were things that I knew I needed to deal with that I wanted opinions on, and I wasn't getting the opinions that I wanted. And I'm thankful for it now. Super fucking frustrating in the beginning, because you just if you get that opinion, you're able to run with that opinion, and you don't really have to fix it yourself. And that's very cheap ass to do, but I was very comfortable doing that. It became to me, and it has become to me, a sanctuary, because just like these two were saying, it really gives me the option to just be me. I get to strip away the layers. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. From left field, there's just nothing that I wouldn't approach, or a topic. And so it's built some reliance for me. It's built some comfort that I find myself in other situations that would have normally really stressed me out. I'm able to develop more, able to develop better skills to handle that. One, knowing that I can approach the group if there's something I want to talk about. And two, the realization that there are other people that are going through, not in particular the same shit I'm going through, but it's brought back that feeling of community that was really missing in my life. I mean, I had a circle of friends and all that, but this goes so much deeper.
I totally agree. I think for me, that's been one of the really neat things was I think so often, I know me personally, I get lost in my own head and my own space and my own problems. And I'm thinking about just my shit alone all the time and thinking that it's unique to me and I'm so special and look at how hard my life is and how difficult it is for me to exist and live and sustain life and be in relationships and work and all these kind of different things. And then to realize, to hear not only you guys, but get that sense that some of the same things that I face and deal with, not just in the surface stuff we all deal with, but more importantly, what's been profound for me is the deeper stuff that we all struggle with. I think one of the biggest ones that all of us here have had moments of hitting upon and kind of butting up against is loneliness and that fear surrounding being alone in whatever sense that is, whether it's in a realistic reality sense of not being in a relationship, not have somebody to go home to at night, not being in love and having that type of existence in that relationship. But on the deeper level of like what it really means to be lonely, and is it okay to, and lonely may not be the right word, but just to be alone. And can I sit in that space and be in that space and be okay in that space? And having seen you guys face those things and go through those things and share those things gives me strength and also like strength, but also just like acceptance that it's okay. It's okay to feel those things first and foremost, and it's okay to stay in those things when I do feel those things. Because I think so often it's real common to, first off, not even get close to that fucking feeling. And if it does creep in, do everything that I can to get the fuck away from it and distance myself from it because it is such a heavy, hard, difficult thing to sit in.
Well, and that's one of the best parts too, right? Like we really leave judgment aside. You know, I'm not here to fix any of you, plain and simple. Like I'm not here to be a Band-Aid or anything else. Like I'm here to be a sound stone and a seer stone would be the best way to put it. I mean, if there's something I could help with. But as far as like stripping the judgment away, you know, going back to being inundated with everybody else constantly, you know, your phone, the computer, the work and everything else, we really get a disconnect in here. And that's brought up a lot of, it's amazing how much you can suppress that you don't really face and you don't think about. And then somebody in the group might say something and it just triggers that emotion. And you're like, fuck, I haven't dealt with that in a long time, but that reminds me of something that I need to work on. So I've had like these constant light bulb feelings of just like, oh shit, I'm not alone in that too. Oh, okay, maybe I can handle that. Maybe I can bring it up in the group and get some good clarity. I was almost said advice.
I think that's definitely another thing I've picked up. First time experiences versus now was my first time coming. I remember looking at Steve at one point after somebody had been opening up and I was like, what the fuck did I just get involved in? These guys are like deep, like crazy, like some of the shit they deal with. And then my rotation came around and I opened up about my brother and it just flowed. And right after that, I'm like, who am I to judge? Like, if anything, hearing other people's experiences and personal journeys just gives me clarity of my own through relation or, you know, being able to relate to what they're going through or even just appreciating what I'm going through myself and thereby kind of building a connection with who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
It's definitely taught me to reserve judgment when someone chooses to open up to me, which has definitely been another benefit that I found with this group.
Do you find that you still have judgment in this space?
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean, I guess explain what you're
because that's one thing that I was actually thinking about that today on the way in here, where it's like, I love all of you guys and I love what we have created and what we do when we're here, but I still have this part of me when I'm listening to you guys where I'm judging you. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just no other way to say it. Like, I'm judging you. And I think that it's not coming, you know, I'm not an asshole. I'm not a judgmental guy. Right. I'm very loving and accepting. And I definitely have compassion for everything that you're going through. And maybe it's just me, but there's some part of me that it's like, I still hear sometimes, and it's not just you guys, but it's everybody in my life. And I judge them. And I'm like, do you know what I mean?
I think you're right. I think I'm just more forgiving of it. I experience it, but it slides off the back. Mm-hmm. You know, it's definitely, it comes, it goes. And I think for the most part, what makes it easier to feel that way is all of us are able to be self-aware that even we acknowledge what we're doing sometimes is stupid. What we're feeling is stupid. You know, I shouldn't feel this way. I recognize that I don't want to feel this way, which makes it even easier to be like, okay,
Yeah.
they get what they're doing isn't healthy for them. I don't need to throw judgment.
Well, that's one thing that I love about coming here is that I know that I can dump my shit on you guys and you're going to give it to me straight. You know, like you'll help me put it all together and make sense of it, and you know, correct thinking errors that I might be having and stuff. So I love that aspect of it. Like that's part of opening up and being here is to be, you know, improved. And yeah, I think it's all part of the love. You know, if you're willing to take the time to listen and to judge and to opine or whatever, that's all part of it. I'll take it. You know?
I think you're really right on with the with the judgment part, though, and I like that you're candid about that, because it's you can't take that away. That's part of who we are, and
that's hard to accept, I think, because
well,
I don't want to be a judgmental person, and I'm not. Like, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying, where it's not me sitting here being like, oh, look at, you know, fuck, Mike, look at you.
But you can understand where it's coming from, though, which changes the dynamic of judging.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, and that's like telling you, you know, don't have emotions. You know, just don't have emotions. We want you to be void of everything and just a zombie when you're here. That's a crock of shit. That's absolutely impossible. So I think everything that comes out of our mouth, you're going to be. All of us are doing that. I know I am. And not in a negative way, not in a passive aggressive way, but of course I'm judging. It's innate to compare lives at that moment. How do you utilize a peer to get over to do something? So I think it's completely natural, commonplace.
I would agree. I just think it's like, for me personally, it's something that I want to be, I guess, better at not doing, or maybe easier on myself when I catch myself doing it, and just accepting it for that fact that it is kind of innate in human nature. And I mean, the reality of, like, if we want to get not super deep, because this isn't fucking super deep, but humans, right, throughout evolution, we had to look at our surroundings and judge things based off of safety.
Yeah.
And so that is just the fight or flight instinct that's existed since the time that we were, you know, even before we were probably walking upright. Is this fucking thing in front of me going to kill me or not? Do I need to be, you know, distance myself from it, or can I move closer to it? And I think that evolutionary thing that's been in existence since the dawn of time and since we've been humans now has this manifestation all the way forward here in current time, where we're still a little judgmental, even when we're really good, sweet-natured people. And it's not to say that as I'm sitting listening to you guys, somehow I'm questioning my safety. That's just the manifestation of it in this current state that we are as humans. Maybe. I don't know.
No, that's a really good way of looking at it. You know, it's like as life is now, we don't, at least not for us, we don't deal with life or death on a daily basis, but those instincts are still inside of us. And I think all fear and anxiety and judgment all goes back to the fear of death, you know. And so I was listening to a book the other day. It was about Wim Hof. I'm a big Wim Hof guy. And
shout out to Wim Hof.
Yeah, Wim Hof, baby. And it was talking about how because of the environment we live in now, we don't have to challenge ourselves physically. We don't have to face the environment if we don't want to. We don't have to face hunger if we don't want to. But by putting yourself in those situations purposely, you awaken those instinctual abilities and strengths in the human body to adapt to the environment. And because most people don't do that, the body just kind of turns on itself. And it starts eating away at itself, and it starts attacking itself with, you know, autoimmune diseases and inflammatory diseases and all this kind of stuff. It's like the body doesn't have anything to fight anymore, so it just turns on itself. So maybe that same principle would apply here, where we're not having to judge a situation as life or death, but that instinctual behavior is still in us to want to judge, you know. But if we're aware of it and we put it in the right place, it's fine. It's just part of life. Just got to flow with it, you know. Like you said, just take it easy on yourself. You know?
Yeah, and I'm still like, I judge nobody harsher than I judge myself. Like I still struggle in that space where it's like, regardless of whatever aspect of life I'm facing, I'm very judgmental and hard on myself. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. There's times where I do really, really good at not doing that. And then there's times that I just do terrible and miserable at that. And, you know, I think sometimes too that bleeds itself over into my relationships with other people, because I get into such a habit and a practice of being that self-judgmental that I can't help but look at other people and reflect it outwards, right? That whole thing of where, you know, you're a mirror for me to see into myself, all that dumb shit. But I think that's what happens, is that I almost just naturally reflect it outwards, especially when I'm in some of those dark places of being very negative and very stuck in those things. Is that our fan kicking on again?
Yeah, I turned it off.
It's all good.
It just told me to go to hell. Well, you know, on a lighter note too, we're not dealing with easy things. You know, and now the foundation is easy, and the principles are there, and the guidelines are there, and that's just what they are. They're guidelines. And we've incorporated and made what's worked for us work. But this isn't easy. To strip down the barriers and to be forthright with something you're trying to work on. There's been times for me it's almost felt like confession, because I haven't known how to share certain things with certain people, or even any certain topic with anybody. And then I'm in a safe place where I'm comfortable. I mean, you shared so kindly about your brother the first time that we met. Today's my brother's birthday, and he passed away 3 years ago. I'm comforted sitting by you because you shared and we had a similar experience. All of that I gained without giving advice. And you didn't give advice to me on how to deal or how to cope or any of these things. We were just specifically there for each other in the environment.
Right.
But it's still so natural to like be that ball of energy and to focus on the I. And we're really trying to strip that down. So like, that's awesome that you brought up autoimmune. I mean, that's perfect, right? Like half the things come out of my mouth, I'm just like, fuck, first world problems. Like all my shit's first world problems. But like all these things they're so heavy for me. They're so big for me. But then I get in the group and I'm just like, fuck, like I just cried. Whoa. Like this total powerful release, and you guys are like, let it go, get angry and shit. Like it's normal and it's natural. And I'm like, I don't want to get angry. And then you feel even more liberated and powerful. And then you know, it might be uncomfortable at the moment, but like throughout the week, it really sets the stage of like, oh, fuck, what couldn't I handle? Like, what couldn't I come across that, one, I couldn't share and talk about and get some good opinions about, but two, I have a 100% success rate of getting through everything up until this point. So this just kind of piles onto the need to work on pile, or already dealt with that. It can stay in the past pile.
Do you guys have, or have you ever had anything quite like this in your life? So anything that kind of hits on all of these different areas that we're talking about, as far as your emotional and mental well-being, and, you know, because I think that all of us also have, I know I personally have benefited physically from being in this. Like it's been encouraging for me to be more active and to be healthy and to be more conscious and aware of those things. So do any of you have anything else in your life that like, is this fucking kick ass? Or have you ever had anything like this?
I'd say it's very similar to the wilderness for me. Like this, for as long as we're actually in a session, the phone is out of sight, out of mind. I don't check it. It's the same when I'm out hiking. And generally when I leave with just a sense of calm, a sense of peace. Like Will was saying, you may get amped up emotionally and cry and break down and experience whatever you're experiencing. And everything after that, as I'm driving home, I'm just collected. You know, I generally sleep like a baby these nights. And it's just a great experience that I can correlate the feelings with when I'm out hiking.
Out in nature and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Which is crazy because we're far from it where we're at.
Yeah.
So
that's a hell of a selling point.
Right. Come experience the outdoors, indoors.
Well, yeah, I have to concur with that. I don't know if I have anything in my life that, I mean, I've got my work structure and things, but nothing that holds a weight like this. I mean, I'm a family man. I've got my daughter and things like that, but nothing that, you know, I brought her into the world. So like I'm obligated to be there and to do that, at least to feel that way. when I'm here in the group, it's no, there's nothing I experience that's like this in my life.
I have, throughout my life, I've had what I would, deem good relationships with other men. And, I've had friends and buddies and things like that where I have felt very close to them. And we've gone through some shared experiences and whatnot that have brought us closer. But I think the difference between this and that, because I feel that way about you guys, but I think the difference is that you come here with the intention of being here as opposed to other relationships and other experiences outside of this. It's like it just naturally kind of happens sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't happen, so you're not really aware of it. But here we're bringing our awareness, we're bringing, do you know what I mean, the intention of that this is what we're creating, this is what we've created, and we want to respect that space and also uphold it. And I think that's kind of one of the different dynamics, right? Where you can have a close relationship and a close bond with a buddy or with a friend or with your wife or whoever it may be, but yet you don't always have constant awareness or appreciation for the fact that I have to show up this specific way specifically for this group. And maybe, I don't know, what do you guys think? Because maybe you do.
No, like the closest thing that I could think of to this would be just working in my barbershop, because there's kind of a one-on-one, opportunity to sit down with another man and have a conversation while I'm, doing a haircut. Not as much when I'm doing a shave, but, so, and we do get pretty raw and real in the barbershop, but there is this interest there for that individual to be there. He's there to get cleaned up and I'm there to get paid.
Yeah.
And while we do open up and get very, very personal there, this is more pure to me. It's even more pure than trying to talk to my family, because like you guys kind of touched on, it's like family. There's almost this obligation to listen to your brother or your mom or your dad to listen to you or whatever. It's like here, there's no money exchanged here. We all come from a distance. We are here for no other reason than because we want to be here.
Yeah, like what do you travel?
It's very pure.
Like how long does it take you to get here?
About an hour.
About an hour?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, this is a very just pure, real experience. I guess I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say, but yeah, there's no other interest here. It's like it's like somebody didn't set this group up and we pay a fee, to come every month. And
you guys didn't pay?
I didn't pay.
That starts next month.
All right. Okay.
So I was a month early. That's that's pretty messed up.
And it's like other than Mike and I who have known each other for a while, we're all kind of. We're not related really in any way. We're just kind of four guys that just come together and, have developed a love and respect and an open space for one another to be ourselves and to get some shit out. And there's no other interest there than that. And it's beautiful.
I think so too. I think that's kind of not necessarily a key component, but I think that's also one of the benefiting factors is, socially, we all don't really hang out all that much, right? We don't have, it's not like we're good friends and we go out drinking on Friday night or, and we have done a couple of things where we do stuff outside of this group and we have a good time, but at the same time, we don't have that dynamic as well, where I've got good friends and good, guys that I would like to see show up and come to this, but I think that it would be challenging to sit in this space with them simply because we have all that other energy and dynamic and relationship that takes place outside of this space. And so being able to just show up here and be, like we said, be real and be kind of who you are without any preconceived notions or fears about what the other people around you are going to think. And that doesn't happen very often. It's pretty few and far in between when you find people that are willing to accept you like that and inversely show up like that. Yeah.
Do you think that dynamic would change if the actual dynamic of, say, the group were to change? So a friendship were actually to develop, you'd find yourself becoming more reserved because you've actually pulled that person into your life?
I don't know. I don't know if it would necessarily change, because I'd like to think that it wouldn't, right? I'd like to think that we've done a pretty damn good job of setting a foundation here. But undoubtedly there would be changes in some ways. My fear would be that it would draw away from this space, where if we all started, not that I don't want to hang out with you guys, I actually really want to hang out with you guys.
Right.
But if we started doing a lot of stuff and hanging out, then we might get lazy with showing up to group on Monday nights because we just we just hung out, Saturday.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so that would be my fear.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we're also creating accountability for each other too. Like that's part of the plus. I mean, that I want to back up what I said. We do things like challenges in the group, and we have these mental things that we want to work on and focus on, and they're all strictly from the individual. It makes it accountable. I'm focused and I think about that throughout the week. So yeah, yes or no. I mean, I'd be down to go get drinks and what have you. That wouldn't put me off by any means. But I love the accountability aspect of like, I know what I'm going to tell you guys when I come in. And I generally get excited if I've worked on it. And then I'm a little embarrassed if I'm like, no, didn't do shit about it. I failed on that challenge incredibly. But that helps me be accountable with myself. So it's like a tit for tat on both.
Yeah, we all kind of suck with our stretches sometimes.
Yeah.
Have you guys noticed that? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Where we don't and is it because...
I'd like to say that I'm generally pretty good at it, just throwing that out there.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, when I first came on, the first 2 sessions, it was like, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That I am getting a bit of a big head here, but I was like, maybe I can get these guys to be more consistent by being more consistent myself. So I just viewed that as a personal challenge to myself that I never verbalized till now. So hopefully I don't get beat up in the parking lot for saying that. But,
totally gonna kick your ass.
Right.
Well, now that you've said it on air, we can. But
That's true, though. I hadn't thought about that because you typically are. Like,
right.
You typically do a really good job of, the stretch, the whole idea of a goal is it brings continuity between each week where we have something that personally we want to work on or strive for and challenge ourselves with. And sometimes it's very personal. Sometimes it's very basic. But the whole idea is that it's just something that we can focus on throughout the week. And then it can link each meeting and each time we meet up so that there's that continuity and we can bring forth the energy that we had prior to next week. And yeah, you do a good job of it. I don't.
Right.
Well, here's my excuse for not being good on my stretches is that I feel like when I come here, I take myself and you guys help me get to a place that is so like raw and powerful and emotional that I'm just like exhausted when I leave and I'm like, what the fuck just happened in there? It's almost like I'm waking up out of some sort of, psychedelic experience or something like that where I've just been totally out of my ego just got checked at the door. And like I get all emotional and I get into it and then I can't remember what the fuck we talked about at the end because I'm just like my guard is down and I'm just, I'm totally vulnerable to you guys, and so, yeah, I'm just so high on that experience that I forget about, kind of the closing stuff at the end.
Maybe we need to start writing them down.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That might help.
Well,
but I can assure you that I am sincere in my efforts throughout the week to challenge myself constantly. I don't ever get lazy when it comes to that. It may not be the thing that I said I was going to do when I was here, but trust me, I'm constantly working on shit.
Not overwhelming, but that theme throughout your week, right? Regardless if it may not be your specific stretch, just trying to constantly challenge and grow.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good thing, man.
Well, and there's no harm, no foul in not accomplishing that. I mean, it's not like we're giving out grades or there's a penalty if you didn't hit that.
Yeah, 25 push-ups.
Yeah.
Well, and that was a question I actually had was, have you ever experienced like guilt when you come here and you say, no, you know what, guys, I just didn't do it?
I know I haven't.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to allow a space of guilt, to be honest.
Right.
I don't want to bring that with me.
I think you should, for sure.
I do.
Right.
I feel guilty. I feel, because it plays back into me being more judgmental against myself than others, right? I feel not just guilty in some way, shape, or form that I've let you guys down, but also that once again, I fucked up and let myself down. Right. Once again, I set a goal, set a challenge, tried to achieve something and failed. And so I continually feel guilty about that.
Well, see, that just makes me want to challenge you more then to put that away then. I mean, but that's your own individual shit, for lack of better terms. And we all, you know what I mean? You guys could probably bring up a list of things that are like, we're pretty sure Will should work on these things. And
No, it's a big theme for me.
we all have that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty powerful for you to admit that. But that makes me personally, being part of this group, I want to challenge you more, because that's not fair for you. And then that's not fair for us then, because I don't want you coming from a place of guilt almost as if you have to. I appreciate you willing to challenge and you want to accept that challenge or that stretch. But the fact that you didn't complete it, I don't view you any less or more. I just want you to just bring you, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Just bring you.
It does. And intellectually and, emotionally and things like that, I understand and I feel that. But there's still this, it's that one fucking part in your head that does all the negative self-talk. And there's times where that motherfucker just will not shut up.
He's been big in my mind lately.
The ego.
Yeah.
Ego.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've had nice long talks with the ego lately. I'm going to try to go ahead and put that bad boy to bed for a while, which sounds pretty good. Again, another beautiful thing about this group is I'm able to put that out there. So even those things like, if I wanted to toot my own horn, I could. If I wanted to just rip myself apart, that possibility is there too. And I love that, because there's no, I think if there were like, we have to stay within this construct, I don't know if I would fully be able to be engaged the way that I'd want to be engaged. I mean, please don't give advice. And we kind of talk about that stuff, and advice is still given. I like that that's really like our kind of only gray area that we have. Yeah, we definitely, I think sometimes we do really well at it. Sometimes we don't. But I think the times that we don't, it's okay. It's necessary, I think, sometimes.
Generally, the person I feel has reached a point that it's like, okay, I want to kind of relate. We've really forced his hand, and he's at a place that I kind of want to bring him out of.
Yeah, help me. Right.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right.
We've all been there. Okay, pull me back out. I'm too much into this, and pull me back out.
Right.
I don't want to make it sound like it's super fucking heavy what we do all the time. But on the same extent, it's super powerful. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of magic that happens. I mean, you were just saying, like, your analogy was what? The hot tub, diving in.
Yeah, naked. Man. You got to show up naked.
Yeah, got to show up naked.
You got to get wet.
We're going Greco-Roman style.
Or just like shedding the armor. It's like I've been out all week, battling life in a sense. And I hate to look at life that way. I don't want to think of life as a battle, because that's an interpretation. It doesn't have to be a battle if we don't want it to be one. But yeah, it's like, this is where I come and just shed it all, and at my very most vulnerable, and I just wrap myself up in the warmth of the love of my brothers, and just, let it just be. Yeah. Just be there. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But
I think that's
we can do it naked if you want. Yeah. Whatever.
I'm like a pissed off fire ant out there. Nobody wants any of this. I think that's awesome that you use the term armor, because there's been many a times where you guys have caught me trying to like revert back into that protection zone where like I allow the walls to come back up, or as I used to blame it on, and it was so easy. It was an easy out for me, but I'd be like, the salesman's come back, and I can just say what I think everybody wants to hear, and then they're pacified. And for me, that just created barrels and barrels of shit that I have to, like the minutia, if you will, of my own mind that I have to sift through. And here that's where I feel guilty. Let me take back what I said earlier. That's where I feel guilty. If I don't bring and I'm not forthright to what I'm really thinking, I go home and feel like shit, because I didn't represent myself in the way that I wanted to represent myself. And I understand the powerfulness of the group and the impact that one voice has. And so if I'm not, I don't want to be saying one thing and then thinking another. It's very counterintuitive, and it would make me almost just want to tap out as opposed to being a part if I did that.
I think that's one thing Craig is very good at, noticing those when we're not fully committing or saying things that we should be saying. And that's why I know I generally end up going further than I expect or want to, is because Craig is very astute at when I'm not committing to myself.
Yeah.
I have an extensive bullshit meter.
Right. Yeah, I believe it.
It's well honed.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
It's because mine is so good.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
Honestly, the reality of it is I have tons of bullshit that I've lived throughout my life. So
Right.
I'm super good at recognizing it.
It's like your new mantra then. You might have just found it. Yeah.
My bullshit meter?
Your bullshit meter. You've just been through enough that you just see it.
I do, for sure. I have a question. It just popped in my head. All of us, to some extent or another, because we've been in group for like the last 3 or 4 months or something like that. I think we started in September, technically.
Yeah.
All of us have had. Do you think that it is happenstance or coincidence that all of us have gone through some massive, major, life-changing shifts in this short amount of time? Like, what do you think it was? Like, do you think it was each of us individually worked our way here to this group in some cosmic, divine, beautiful, synchronistic way because we were about to, or we were in the process of embarking on massive shifts in our life? Or this group has helped facilitate the movement into those spaces? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think? Because I think we all have to some extent, right? Some more than others. Some of us have had really huge. I did look over at you, Will.
Yeah.
But some of us have had really huge, massive things take place in this short amount of time. And is it, did the universe smile and lead us to this group so that we could get through it? Or we were in this group and the universe said, sweet, now you got some skill set and you got a support group and you got this help. So we're going to go ahead and push you off this fucking cliff.
I feel like
I don't know what you're talking about. My life's been pretty generic these past 6 months.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, maybe you could look just across the table somewhere else. Well, there's a quote on the board, and it says, of course you have problems. They'll always be there. You just have better quality problems. And that came to me. It was just one of those, like if we're talking about the universe, I don't know. I was working on something and I had a friend mention to me, you're in a better place than I've seen you in a long time. And inside I just chuckled because it was like, well, to you, I'm in a better place, but like my life is disheveled right now. What makes you think any more affluence or a change of environment or anything else is going to like do away with your problems? And for me, and then this popped up and I was like, holy shit, I've got to write this down. Like, it's just better quality problems. I think it's a combination of both. I think the universe is a marvelous, marvelous thing. And whatever you put out, you're going to get back. And sometimes I was in a realm of a lot of negativity. And so that was what I attracted. That might have been negative people, negative relationships, even negativity inside my family. I think that's maybe what I was looking for to take me to maybe use as a catalyst for the next step. As far as the group, creating an environment like that or helping create a change, I think it gave me more security knowing that I had a group that had my back regardless of how I felt. Frankly, and not to throw anybody under the bus, you guys don't give a shit about anybody else. You care about me. That's exceptionally powerful. I don't take that lightly. You guys don't want to hear about I could go on and on if you wanted to. And if I felt that was appropriate, you guys would let me just ramble on. No, you do a great job of curtailing that a little bit. And then that's fantastic. But your key, your guys' awareness is not for somebody else. Your awareness is for me and the person that's in the group. So I haven't had a lot of that. I haven't, I've been in tight knit groups, but it's always, it's the group. It's not the individual. You guys are very focused on the individual, and that has helped me analyze myself through everything I've been going through. So I'd say it's helped, but I don't think it was a cause of anything. Like, I couldn't be like, oh, it's because of the group I'm doing this, or because of the group I'm doing that. But I couldn't say for certainty. I mean, there's definitely a shadow of that there, because I've been more comfortable making tough decisions knowing that I had a group to rely on. It's probably the best way to put it. And the fucking universe.
And the universe. What do you guys think?
Gosh, I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to put all this together over here, because that's a heavy question, and it's definitely something that I think about. I
stay up close on the mic there, man.
Okay, yes, sir. I look at this group as a practice.
Maybe not that close.
You just made my evening.
As a practice of opening my heart. And I'm starting to believe that when you open your heart and you open your mind, all sorts of crazy shit starts to either happen or was already happening and now you really see it. How is my mic distance?
That's
good?
perfect. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So I don't know if anything that has happened, because I've gone through some incredibly difficult times since this group has started. And I'm so grateful for this group. Like I told you guys on the first night, like you don't know how impeccable the timing is for me to be here, you know, with you guys. Because I've been through some crazy stuff, but I've noticed just synchronicity. I remember you had talked about synchronicity a few months ago in the group, and I didn't really know what the fuck you were talking about. And now I totally see it. Just it's like, it's really weird what my life is doing right now and what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing in my life. And I believe that coming here is a way of communicating to the universe, hey, I'm vulnerable. Because when I come here, I am completely vulnerable. Like I said, I'm spiritually butt-ass naked, and I am in my, you know, most vulnerable human weak state, and I just give it to you guys and do something. You just do something with it. Every time I come here, you guys do something with me that's just amazing, and I love it. So this group is definitely, to me, a spiritual practice, and it's one of the tools that I've used to show the universe that, hey, my heart is open. Put me through what I need to go through, show me what I need to see. And there was something that you said last week during our cool down session when you kept asking us to, or you kept repeating, what do I want? That has been on my mind all week, man. And you know what? I don't know what the fuck I want. And I think that's why I have so much conflict in my heart and in my life right now, like just internally. Yeah. Because I don't know what the fuck I want. You know, like I just got out of this really heavy relationship, and like I know that I shouldn't be in that relationship, but I want to be in that relationship. But do I really? Yeah. You know, it's like, do I really want to put up with all the shit that I had to put up with in that relationship? And you know, it's like, what do I want with my barbershop, with my business? What do I want with my family? Do I want to stay in Utah, or do I want to move to Tennessee where I could be closer to my kids? Do I want to be in a relationship? Do I want to be single? Like, I don't know. So like you just like when you did that last week during cool down, that's just been spinning in my head. And like, I'm trying to figure out, what do I really want? Because I believe, like, have you guys ever read the book, The Alchemist?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That is a fantastic book. To all you listeners out there, if you haven't read it, it's an amazing book. But
Paulo Coelho.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah. Like that's all about the message of that book is that if you tell the universe what you want, it will move heaven and earth to make it happen for you. You know, chasing your personal legend. You know, what do you want? And so yeah, I've like come to this realization this week because of you, Will, and I'll just say it in front of everybody. You know, like I need to figure out what the fuck I want, and as soon as I do, I believe that a lot of this conflict and turmoil and anxiety and knots in my stomach and sleepless nights and all this shit that I'm experiencing right now, it's gonna pass, and it's there because I don't know what the fuck I want. Yeah, you know, so.
Well, I want to ask you something about that, if you don't mind me diving a little deeper.
Okay. Hold on. No, go ahead.
So
pause. Wait. No. Move. Stand up. Sit down.
Am I popping and locking? I'm totally confused right now. One moment I'm breakdancing. So you talk about, so you're in it. Like, it's a good way to put it. Like, you're in it, right? You're in the turmoil and the questioning and everything else.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, so diving deeper, I guess I'm just going to talk about the group instead of even you as an individual. For me, that's really what's powerful, because we could just talk for hours, the layers of what you just said: relationship, work, career, family, moving, and everything else. Like, that's part of the beauty. Is we're 4 individuals right now. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. But even, let's just talk about these 4. There's 4 individuals here. the similarities that we were finding, the parity between what's really going on, there's a very clear movement of the same direction that we're all thinking. And I think
thought current. That's what I talked about at the beginning. Yeah, thought current, man.
I think once it's all stripped away, we realize, like, bare bones, we're all really going for the same. Like, of course, we want a happy family, or we want to be loved. All of these things we're starting to find, and you strip away those layers of feeling alone, and now we're getting to the root of some of these things. Like, I'm watching your growth as far as what you're willing to dive into, what lines you're willing to cross, what lines you've drawn that no one can cross. And I've noticed a lot of growth even inside of the group of what you're even willing to share. Mm-hmm. Like, you're an emotional guy, and that's very, very powerful. Some people can't tap into that. You've got this resource that you can tap into, and you bring that, which has helped other people open up and find that new mode and new direction of thinking. But I think that's amazing, because we, through hearing you speak and everything else, we're getting a sense of just, okay, we're all on that same current.
I'm just having this freaking epiphany, just like right now. It's all like, it's like
it's
happening.
An aha moment?
It is. It's an aha moment. Yeah, I've been feeling just completely stagnant. Like, there are days when I do not want to get out of bed, and I don't usually feel that way. Yeah. Like, I felt like I've had purpose and I've had direction, and now, because of some heavy losses I've experienced lately in my life, emotional, just relationships, not just the girlfriend thing, but just with my ex-wife and my kids and all that. Like, I'm not going to get too personal on here, but like, I have been afraid to get up and face the day, and I haven't felt like that for a really long time. And it's because I don't know what the fuck I want. I don't know what I'm getting up for. What am I supposed to be doing? What direction am I supposed to go? What do I want? Because that's all the universe is waiting on. It's like, you remember those cars when we were kids, when you would just like kind of rev them up, and they would make the noise, and there'd be little sparks. Yeah. And I feel like I'm all revved up, but no one's going to put me down and send me in a direction. I have to, it's like all that energy is there, and I can't get rid of it because I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And so by you saying that last week, what do I want? That's just been, I still don't know a week later, but I
would have hoped that you had it figured out.
But that's the goal, I think, for me. There's my stretch to figure out this week. What the fuck do I want? What do I want to put my energy into? What do I want to focus on? There's so many different ways I could go. I need to figure that out, and I think I'll start to feel better. So, aha moment. Thank you, fellas, once again.
I want to give you advice.
Okay.
Like, be patient. Just relax and slow down, because that shit just takes time. Okay. Like, I don't think there's any way to force what direction am I supposed to fucking be going right now.
Okay.
And I think regardless of what epiphany you're going to have tomorrow or next week or a month from now, and decide this is the fucking direction I've been waiting for. This is the sign from the universe, and everything's aligned and ready to go. And I go off on that path. I mean, a good example, and we'll talk a little bit more about you because you're fucking talking, and we'll get a little bit personal about you.
All right.
Not long ago, however long ago, a few weeks ago, a month ago, you got all excited about this opportunity to go teach, right? And I remember when you talked about that, and I'm like, fuck, that's awesome. Like, that's a good sign. That's a synchronistic alignment of events, right? Where this is going to be something that you're excited about. You can kind of dive into and spend some energy on in a good positive way. And it's going to give you some new trajectory and some new outlets and some things that are going to pop up for you. I got super excited about that. And now we fast forward to the present moment, and you're really not that fucking into it, where it's like it didn't really hit everything that you were hoping that it was going to hit. It's stressing you out more than you thought it was going to. I think that's a wonderful, beautiful example of the way that the motherfucking universe works, because it's a bitch sometimes, where it'll give you things that you think, oh my God, I'm so excited. This just fell in my lap and it's perfect. And then you dive right in, and it doesn't take long before you're like, fuck, why am I still treading water here? Why isn't this taking off the way that it wants to, or the way that I thought it was going to? And I think the reality is because, first off, we always have, I don't want to say we have greater expectations than, do you know what I mean? Because we need to have great expectations for ourselves and for our lives. But I think what happens a lot of times is we hold ourselves up to the greatest fucking expectation, which is great and wonderful, but we take out of the equation, just the fact that we're fucking humans. Yeah. Like the mere fact that everything that we do takes practice, right? So just be patient in that space of like, what do I want? That's a wonderful thing to ask yourself. And that's a wonderful thing. And same thing when Will was hitting on that last week, I thought about it at the time. I've been thinking about it since, and I'm kind of in the same boat where I feel like I'm on the right fucking path and I'm headed in the right direction. I don't have a fucking clue where I'm going, but I have faith that I'm going the right way because it feels right. But to sit in that space of all that pent up nervous energy in your belly, it's like it has to have some release and some outlet for it.
Yeah.
And if you,
I'm not finding that.
Yeah, that's hard. It's
I'm not
hard.
finding that release, man. Yeah.
And so my
other than here, when I'm here, I come in, I dump it on you guys. I feel better for a day, and then it's right back again.
If you can hang in there, if you can hang in that space of just letting that energy build and not release it in a forceful, unnatural, unhealthy way, just let it feel, even though it fucking hurts and it's painful.
Yeah.
The universe will say, here you go. And then as soon as it starts to unload, you'll feel it. And it might not be the thing that's going to change the rest of your life or the next 6 months or the next 6 years, right? It might just be the healthy release of energy in that moment that's going to help you for the next week or maybe just the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
But if you can just hold on to it, because it's good stuff, it just fucking hurts a lot of times. Because I'm right, like I'm exactly where you're at in a sense where I feel like I've got all this massive amount of like manifesting like a motherfucker, right? I feel like I can master the universe and spin planets around. But I'm sitting there twiddling my fucking thumbs and not doing anything with that ability because I don't know where to go with it or what I want to do with it. Yeah. So it's just hanging in there waiting for the universe to show up in some way, shape, or form that I can recognize. And so the challenge for me is, what can I do to stay in that space of recognition and awareness so that when it does show up, I'm not over here fucking around, wasting my energy on an unhealthy outlet or in an unhealthy way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure you can think about what my unhealthy outlets are for my wastes of energy, right?
Yes.
And that's a perfect example.
In the universe's defense here, let's be honest, you did want to enjoy it. You did want to call out so much. Like it was more of like you were Captain Danning it in the middle of the ocean. Like you were like, come on, bring it. And then, of course, like, you know,
and it brought it.
And it brought it.
Yeah.
So like, what a wonderful platform, though, for you to have. Like that, this is a perfect launching off point because you just have a clean slate, and now you get to spend the time to figure out what you do want, what works for you, and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
But you called out the universe. I mean, I did the same thing. You know, frankly, I remember a point even recently where I really did that, and so I think it's great because you're feeling. I mean, if you want proof that like reality is out there and reality is listening and the universe is listening, man, you got it. And then we were able to reflect and understand that for all of us just to watch it through you.
Just be patient.
Okay.
And it's so
that's probably the best advice I could have heard because I'm so sick of sitting here. You know, yeah, it's like I was just when you mentioned teaching, you know, it's like I hear from students all the time at that school what an impact I'm making on their lives. And I'm like, well, when the fuck is this going to start making an impact on mine? You know, because I would really love to feel better, you know, and I thought that by, you know, turning myself over to service like that and just giving myself to those students and making the drive up every day and teaching and pouring my heart out to them and giving them all the skills that I've learned. And, you know, like I see it benefiting them, but I'm still a fucking train wreck. You know,
you're not getting any benefit from it.
Yeah, you know. So I mean, and I don't want to be selfish, but I was like, hey, you know, give me a little something here. You know, I'm really putting myself out there for other people right now. You know,
yeah.
God, just give me a little relief. Just a couple of days and no anxiety would be beautiful. You know, but yeah, it'll come.
Mike, what do you think, man? Did this group show up in your life, or
that's kind of uninteresting. I'd have to actually refer to Steve to that because for myself personally, I started my personal journey of improvement 4 years ago, you know, through therapy and other things. And I had been going up until 3 years ago, and I'm on a as needed basis for that now. Barber Steve, that's how I refer to you outside of any space.
Barber Steve.
that may upgrade to guardian angel Steve here, just because I gotta ask what inspired you to actually invite me to this, because I definitely think there's a bit of exterior things at play that I may not know or entirely believe in myself, but I did hit a hard time, and I just lost a relationship, and I had no personal connection to anybody, to lose a relationship and then a few months later to lose my brother. It was tough that Steve reached out, mentioned this group, and I don't know what inspired him to actually bring it up to me, because the number of men that come through your chair are probably, countless, that there must have been something at play for you.
You want an answer?
Yeah. I was hoping for one.
That sounded like a question.
I just think it goes back to my desire to be open-hearted, to allow the universe to unfold through me in some way. Let me be a tool to the universe. Let me be where I need to be to help people, so that, and ultimately I can hopefully find and help myself through all this as well. So it just came from love, man. I've known you for a long time, and I love you. And I always think of our connection as, a little deeper than most of the people that come into my barbershop. Obviously, the way I behave when I'm there, I'm a lot more myself, and stuff like that with you. I just love you, and I thought, this has been huge for me. I'm going to share it with somebody else that I love and I think could benefit from, just.
When I first came in, he likes to say that I looked like a homeless person because I just had grown everything out. And he thought my wife of the time was my caseworker.
Yeah,
so
I did, yeah.
So I was cleaning myself up to get a job and make something of myself. And
which isn't true, but that's what you looked like.
Right.
Yeah.
Fast forward, 4 years later to where we're at. I just think it's been wonderful for me. If not longer than 4 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
8. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I think, my creation story for this group.
Yeah.
Coming to this group.
We really wanted your dues.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Well, good luck getting that out of me.
Do you think too, because all of us have those things where, and just this question in general that I kind of posed was, was it the chicken or the egg, which came first, right? Did the universe line this up so we could, show up and help you through these times, or does the group just support you in that space? And, I had a thought. It was a good one. Oh, I think also just the awareness that we get from being in this space and sitting, in these conversations and the things that we've talked about, where it is just that active listening, right? And listening to the other man and not offering advice, or you really have to be present, right? All of us can think about times where we were really present sitting here and times when we weren't. And I think that practice of presence bleeds over. Right. It bleeds over into every other aspect of our life. I know that I've seen that, where there's times where I have much more awareness when I'm not present, and I get the opportunity to practice those moments in my regular everyday life and relationships. And then I think because we do have that presence practice, I'm going to hashtag that, the practice of presence, then I think we see those synchronistic universal spins of shit that lines up even more so, just simply because we are in the moment of being grateful and aware and present because of the practice that we get to have here in this space.
Well, I think it's great you keep using, the sync, but for me, it seems to be human nature. Like we're reaching out, we're community people, and so this is a thriving point. You know what I mean? We find something that works and we latch on. I mean, I had to be aware. I had to force myself to come here at times. I mean, I spent weekends frying myself and not sleeping and overworking. And then I'd start Monday morning and I knew I'd be down here until, 9 o'clock sometimes, given on occasion. So there were many times I was checked out and not very, well, I wouldn't say checked out. I was here, but I don't think mentally astute as I want to be. But I don't know. I have a hard time with the sync. I think I like thought pattern and the wave and everything. That makes more sense to me than the in sync, because
Is the synchronistic thing, is that too like hippy dippy and fucking out there for you?
Man, dude, I followed Fish for a while, so we can talk about that on a different podcast. No, I think this comes together and this works because I can only speak for those here at the table. We were looking for something. This fits the need for community.
There, you have to be prepared to be open. I think it takes you being in a certain state of mind and ready for it to accept it.
Yeah.
I would almost question that's why the ones who have come and gone, they weren't exactly ready. They felt like they might have been and experienced it and said, this isn't for me. And they may say this isn't for me right now and may find their way back. But I think it requires a certain state of mind to come here and be consistent about it and ready for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're all looking. I mean, we're all looking to each other. Like, there's tools that the three of you have that I don't have. You all obtain a skill set that I don't have. And I'm, it's the whole, if you want to learn a profession or if you want to do something, find someone that does it well and emulate their process. For me, that's a lot of what I've done. Like, you're super fucking mean to yourself.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you're also super giving. And so, like, for me, that's a fun balance. And that's made me aware, maybe I'm just kicking my own ass. Maybe I need to be kinder to myself. And so there's tools that you have shown that you'll give to other people that you won't give yourself, that I watch, and it makes me want to do that to myself. Okay, I need to give myself those tools. I need to give myself... it's the whole, and I think I say it in group quite a bit, but when you go down on an airplane, and luckily none of us have experienced that, but the first thing they tell you is to put an oxygen mask on yourself first. Because if you're incoherent, you can't save anybody. That was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I was so busy, I would say vicariously living through other people. And I had built that, and that was my life for such a long time. You take the power back, you draw those lines, inevitably you're either going to lose relationships or lose friendships. That's just the cycle of life. But I've gotten tools from each one of you on how to handle and deal and cope better. So the sync, it makes sense, right? If that's what you want to say and that's what works for you, that's fantastic. For me, I'm kind of on the opposite of the universe knew. This is myself I knew. This is the comfort that I wanted. This is the community that I wanted. And this is the kind of group that I'm looking for. So, yeah, shit. It sinks.
Yeah, it's the universe.
Totally, man.
Yeah. Hippy dippy or not. It's just, this seems to me such, it's just like, it's the love of human nature. You know what I mean? And now I get to a point where I'm excited to come on Mondays, regardless if I'm dog-ass tired or have had a shit weekend. I still want to come, because there's times where I want to pull back and I don't want to share as much, and that's perfectly acceptable. And at that moment, I just want to actively listen more, because if I don't, I'm robbing myself that opportunity. You know what I mean? I'm learning much more about myself, shutting up and slowing down. And it's amazing, a little caveat, and I'll move on. I tell so many people to slow down now. And just in like typical conversations, I'll just be like, put my hand on their shoulder and be like, just slow down for a second. Just sit in that and slow down. I'm like, fucking Craig. It's in my head. Just in my head.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell myself to slow down, man. Wish I had somebody telling me that more than just once a week.
Yeah.
I'm pissing.
I'll just send you a daily text that just says slow down.
Yeah,
shit, that might help.
That would be probably do the trick. Oh man.
So are you both taking from? You seem lighter,
right,
than when I first met you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that this is a good conduit for me to kind of, as Steve has been saying, to kind of like brain dump weeks' thoughts, months' thoughts, things that have just been bothering me. Sometimes they can be issues, sometimes they can just be thoughts, but I kind of get it all out. I get heard, which is something I feel a lot of people feel they don't get, is heard.
Yeah.
I get acknowledgement, and then we move on, and I'm allowed to move on. And it's very much like chiropractor, how you say, like, you go, you get your session, you're good for a day or two, and you're ready to do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good comparison. Physically to the mentally. This is chiropractic care for your mind.
What a good way to put it.
Right.
What a good way to put it. You know, I know I mentioned earlier when we first started this that your talk on your brother, and we don't have to get too personal, but for me it was such perfect timing, because that was something that was definitely top of mind for you, and it really held a lot of focus. And I would even say for a moment created some barriers for you to move on and maybe to handle other areas that you wanted to handle. For me, it was hearing that and then hearing what you were going through. I was able to put a lot to bed, even to a point to where, I mean, last night it was midnight. Here I am, like, working around on my book and everything. Midnight hit, and it was his birthday, and I had a drink, and I was finally able to say, look, I don't know if you hear me or not, whatever else, but I forgive you. And that's the first time since I met the kid, I was actually able to say, I forgive you. And you came to mind because I watched you go through this process of, like, first forgiving yourself for even feeling those things, and then forgiving him for, you know, for whatever it caused. And again, we don't need to go too personal, but the impact of other people's lives and what they bring, it's changed me immensely.
That was I did have some reservations, I'll admit, because you were the first one to go, I recall, and you did kind of touch upon your brother. And I thought to myself, oh, shit, like, if I go into it with an opposite point of view, you know, I don't want to start anything my first night here. But once I started talking, it just kind of came out. And once I was able to process that and think about things from your perspective versus mine, it definitely made me appreciate the mindset I was in, that I was able to forgive him and able to forgive myself for the thoughts and things that I had been feeling, and actually feel appreciative towards that entire process even more, because you've since opened up that it's helped you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal. I would assume of this group is kind of to help seek some kind of resolution through our issues through relation, or even just connection, you know, and that is one of the best examples of this. I mean, I definitely feel connected to you through the loss of specifically brother, and a brother who wasn't necessarily kind growing up.
Yeah. It's amazing, that similarity.
Absolutely. And I definitely would say I've learned tools from you in that regard for that specific reason.
Well, and the power of knowing that we can reach out to anybody at any time. I mean, when I was driving back and forth to Idaho, and you guys, I could have just asked, and you guys would have been in the car with me, helping. That's part of the fuel that kept me going when I was up there, knowing that if I did lose my shit in the middle of all of that mess, I could have called you guys and been, look, I need you to get up here. And y'all would have hopped in a car and driven up there. Like, to me, that's a real commitment. That makes me want to bring it more and more. And there's times where, like, I'm a homebody and I don't want to see anybody. Like, I'm stuck in my own shit and I don't want to see anybody. But knowing that you guys are there, it gives me that capability, or at least that it's like I've got it in my pocket that I'm not alone. Regardless of whatever mental torment I put myself through, I'm not alone.
Yeah. I don't know why you guys are fucking looking at me. I just took a deep breath.
Well, normally that's followed by some, like, you know, huge wisdom.
Right. Yeah. Well, I do have something else that I want to talk about. I am spacey. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to talk about too, one of the topics was we're going to get real judgmental, and what's wrong with men today, and why is it that way? And do you know what I mean? Like, just on a broader sense, like, why are men in general, and honestly, we're generalizing, right? Because there's plenty of wonderful men out there. And just like us, we're all wonderful, amazing men, but we have our flaws. But in general, why are men so disconnected from emotion? Why are men tend to be, if they are connected to emotion, they tend to connect to pain or aggression or, do you know what I mean? Disconnect. Like, why do you think that men are that way? And then what can we do? I guess that's an easy answer, right? Just fucking go to a men's group. But what do you guys think? That's a big, broad question.
I'd like to think a part of it is upbringing, and I'd like to think it already is changing. As I've talked about this a lot as I've been going to group with other people, and I feel like we are kind of that last generation of what's been described as toxic masculinity, where we've just had this upbringing where men are men. We don't cry. We don't complain. We just do our job and we do it well, and if we don't do it well, then we're failures.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I was raised. And I definitely viewed my dad in that way, that his wins were wins and his losses were big deals that just weren't acceptable, and it's taken a change in mindset for us that were older. I think I'm the pup of the group that, as I've talked about it, I've been impressed with you guys because you are older than me, that I feel like you've been exposed to that kind of.
How old are you?
34.
We're all like right in that fucking old man Will over here, but we're all right in that same age.
Okay, well then
Somebody's got to give me a walker. I get shit for being the old guy.
How old are you, Will?
40.
I'm 42.
Well,
I mean 40 also. Not
Wait a
42.
minute, wait a
40
minute. Are you
also.
lying now?
No, I'm 40 also.
but there's still 5 years more time you've been invested into this mindset than myself.
Yeah.
Right. I just think that's kind of an upbringing thing we've all experienced that I hope, or I think, is shifting as I see fellow friends who are wives or husbands talking about their children and how they're raising them, and they're letting their boys pick what they want and their girls pick what they want and their toys, and they're allowing them as children to actually process their thoughts. I kind of think to myself, I was never given that. It was like, don't you cry. You don't cry. Like,
do you remember ever seeing your dad cry? Like on a,
if it was a kind of an angry moment, or like a family loss, but there was no crying when he was just reached a point of stress. Like, you just kind of like, I need to get.
What about just from like emotion, right?
Right.
Like it always had to have some big catalytic, or not catalytic, some big catalyst to it, right?
Yes.
What about you guys? Same thing? Like, or was your dad, in general, did you see your dad cry a lot?
No, I never saw I was kind of raised jointly between my stepdad and my biological dad, but I never saw either one of them cry until I was maybe in my 20s.
Yeah.
So.
I remember seeing my dad cry. Like, it's kind of hard to really like bring forth that memory, but I remember maybe not even seeing him cry physically, like watching him, tears roll down his face, but knowing that he was crying like in the other room or something. And it was always like, not always, because it didn't happen very often, but it was, I think when his mother passed away, when my grandma died, really profound things like that. Mm. But otherwise, like, super few and far in between. Mm. When I did get older, granted, there's been a couple of times as an adult where I've seen him express emotion and things like that. But, I think about myself, and, I don't cry as much as I would almost like to. And I've gone through periods of my life where I haven't, I've had that mindset where I'm not going to cry. I'm going to resist it. And then I go through periods of my life where I fucking bawl all the time at everything. Mm. And then there's times where, like, I want to cry. I'm in one of those states now where I want the release of tears. But for some reason I can't get there. And even like normal things that I would cry at, cause I'm super, like, it's not hard for me at all to watch a fucking movie and just bawl. Like, it doesn't matter what movie it is. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter what movie it is. It's gotta be a good movie, right? Yeah. It's gotta have some emotional, draw to it. But it's very common for me to sit there and cry during a movie. And, I've been struggling to even do that. And I don't know why. Like, it kind of pisses me off because I want the emotional release from it. But I don't know why I haven't been able to. But I think that's, like you said, maybe we are the last generation where some of those behaviors and that toxic masculinity, or whatever you want to label it as, is slowly fading away. And I think it is, but I have this massive fear too of like, what are we now replacing that with? Right? Do you know what I mean? What does masculinity look like for the next generation? Because we know this way wasn't right, or, not necessarily right, but not ideal, and no longer works. I think for a time, the way that men worked and masculinity worked, and I think it worked, right? It fit in the process of society and the way that society worked.
Yeah.
Well, that's no longer the case now. So what's going to take its role? What is it going to look like moving forward in the next generation and the generation after that? Because we all just build upon itself, right? So I worry that we're going to swing too far to the other end of the spectrum in order to make up for where we were at on this end of the spectrum for the past, whatever, 100, 200, 500 years or whatever it may be. That's my fear.
Shit, I see us there now. I think to a degree we're there now. I think we're so inundated and worried about being so PC about everything. And the moment that something that, you know, you've already got a bunch of triggered people. It's probably the best way for me to put it. A bunch of triggered people waiting, waiting and just not really hoping, but just the chance to like, oh, you said that wrong and I'm going to teach you a lesson right now. And this isn't how in today's day and age, this isn't how you should feel. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're stuck in this juxtaposition. I mean, I was raised by my grandfather and I always knew my dad was there. And I have many early childhood memories back to my birth father after my grandfather passed. And he cried all the time. But it was always crying over guilt of like, oh, I could have done or should have done and everything else. So there was... I got very tired of those tears because it was crying without action. Yeah, was the best way to put it. And I cry a lot, not so much anymore. And you guys have witnessed that. I mean, and when I let it go, like that rush of emotion comes and I'll let it go. And I'm super thankful I have the ability to do that.
You fight it though.
I fight the shit out of it.
You fight it hard.
I'm already so wrapped up in my own head that when I let that emotion go, mentally, I want to stay on track. And I want to stay on a specific topic. And I find myself when that flood comes, I think about 40 different things all at once. And so like I'm thinking about past relationships or future relationships and everything else. And so there's just this rush of emotion and I get a release, but then I get like that, like, oh shit, the drug wore off, so I don't look forward to or wanting those feelings. I'm glad when it comes, and I'm glad when I have the ability and I let it go, and I do feel the tears come. But no, for a long time, I really tried to run away from it. And that's why I became so infatuated with other people, even writing that damn book. It's all about living and being vicariously through other people, not all about. But I didn't want to live my own emotions. I didn't want to live my own life. I was perfectly... Well, that's a lie now. I mean, and that was my line for a long time. Oh, I'm perfectly happy being me or knowing me. And that was complete bullshit. The opposite was I never wanted to give myself the opportunity to know who I was because I didn't want to face it. So I just divulged and dove into other people. And so I loved seeing them cry because the emotion was there and the realness was there. I didn't want to do it myself, not at all. But I think we're just in a time and an age where it's just fucking uncomfortable. Like I don't think there's anything a man. Of course, there's things that men can do that women can't do. For God's sakes, I have a dick. I don't know any women out there with dicks. So there's lines.
I'm sure Steven does.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. Like I'm being very like I'm being.
Why me? Why would I know that?
I'm being very and that's off the cuff, obviously. But I think we're in a very uncomfortable point to where it's like, wait a minute, am I allowed to have? Is society allowing me to have this emotion, or why can't I be? You know what I mean? This big, tough, strong guy. And what if that works for me? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just like we're in a giant bowl of soup where we want to make sure everything's okay. But we don't want to tell anybody that that's okay because we don't want to limit the progress, but we don't want to halt the progress. Oh, and I don't want to be overcritical. I want to be a little sensitive about this instead of just like, hey, it's what came to mind. I'm just going to tell you what's on my mind.
Yeah, I think it's so hard. I mean, we could get completely off course in a topic in regards to society and the way things are currently at and the way they're moving and things like that. Sometimes I get lost in that space and I think about that stuff and I have to just always like let go of it and bring it back, because if I sit out there in the space of thinking about not just masculinity, but the state of society and the way that, because I think we have in some realms and in some ways swung too far to the other end of the spectrum in regards to not just like things that are PC now and the acceptance of all these different things. I'm all for that. And I'm very, very much a proponent of, do whatever the fuck it is that you want to do and be whoever the fuck it is that you want to be. It's not me to judge you in any way, shape, or form. However, I think that like it doesn't affect me, right? It doesn't matter. Like in my everyday fucking life, I don't care. It doesn't have massive influence on my interaction with other people, the realm of people that I interact with, right? So why am I going to get incredibly lost in it? It's coming back to that space of like, what am I personally doing? And really, it's just like the same stuff that we do here. It's like, what am I really doing to stay connected to emotion, to slow down and be present, to ask myself, what do I want? Do you know what I mean? How am I bettering myself just for me and me alone, and not worried about the big picture of things? Because it would be so easy. It would be so easy to get lost in it. I mean, I do at times too, right? I think we all do naturally get lost in that distraction of whatever the fuck society's doing, and, you know, get all caught up in it. And I get a crack out of it. Like, how often do you see people that get so, like, I really don't fucking care what's happening out there, right? I don't care whether it's what the president's doing or what's taking place because of this, that, or the other. I just don't care, because it doesn't have any effect on me in my everyday life. And you'd have people say, well, yes, it does. Like, that should affect you. Like, you know, you're going to see the benefit or the ramifications of this, that, or the other. I don't really think I will, because at the end of the day, it comes down to my mindset and my ability to move through my life in such a way that I choose, right? And my own choosing, and not let it be dictated by the realm of everything else that I'm surrounded by. It's how do you choose to look at the world? And so I think about that. I think about, how do I choose to not just look at the world, but my world, right?
Yeah.
Because this is my world.
Well, I think in a roundabout way, we're talking about evolution a little bit. I mean, because I think that's great. There's some of these chauvinistic behaviors. I'm glad they're gone. You know what I mean? I think a woman should be president. I mean, there's all these things. There are such hot topics right now about, you know, we for God's sakes, right now in the media, we've got this massive sexual harassment. It's like the big topic that everyone's been this and harassed and everything else. I think those behaviors need to go. I don't think anybody, male or female, needs to be in that situation or should be in that kind of a situation. But as far as like development of like what's a man and what's a woman, I think for me, I think we're just lost in that. I mean, we know it almost sounds bad if I said we know our roles, because we're even really redefining roles. But I know as a man, I want to be more comfortable in my body, and I want to be more comfortable with my voice. I'm not too worried about being PC. I'm not too worried about what the rest of the world thinks. You know, am I willing to change a conversation or have a different conversation? Of course. I mean, that's evolution again of what we're going through. But I think we're so willing to be combative right now. You know, we're being offended for other people. I think there's a fine line there where that has to stop. You know, if that other person's not offended, then why are you offended for them? I mean, is that really dramatically changing or ruining your life, or are you fighting against something because you don't want to deal with another thing?
And see, I always take it to like even the like the next level, because I have a belief system that's based around my own, obviously, personal belief system and my interaction with the universe and what I believe the universe to be, and energy and all that kind of stuff. And so even when really, really terrible shit happens to people, I'll have compassion for it. I'll care about them. You know, it sucks. I'm sorry that bad shit happens. But then there's this other part of me, and I definitely don't want to say that it's like my higher consciousness, because fuck that. I think that's retarded. And I shouldn't say retarded, but fuck it, it's retarded. But I don't care. Like, I don't care when bad things happen to people, or when people die, or when people are murdered or abused, or this, that, or the other, or child trafficking, or war, or whatever the fuck North Korea is going to do to us. Or I don't care about any of that. Not because I'm disconnected and incompassionate and I don't care about people or the world or society, but just because at the end of the day, I have this bigger picture in my head of like, dude, it really doesn't really fucking matter, because the energy that exists inside of you does not stop. It does not end. Your body's going to die, and you're, guess what, going to just continue on. And so what takes place in this current state where you're at now, not only does it not matter, but on a like way, way, way deeper sub-level, it matters massively.
Yeah. Because
I believe that all things create energy. And so even the really shitty things that happen to us create energy, and they all happen for a reason, and they perpetuate the spin of the universe. And so I always kind of have that underlying thing. And sometimes I feel like maybe that's me lying to myself Like, that's the story I've told myself in order to be a disconnected piece of shit asshole.
At least you're being honest.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, let me ask you a question about that, because you just opened up a huge freaking barrel of monkeys or whatever when you said that our consciousness, or like the energy that we are, is going to move on, and this is a temporary mortal type of thing. Does that energy that we would define as like what I am, does that have a gender to begin with?
No, I don't think it does at all.
Okay. Because that kind of helps put the whole, what's wrong with men thing into perspective. Because I've been over here spinning in my head thinking, how am I going to approach that question? What's wrong with men? And I think, well, outside of this biological shell, am I a man anyway?
Yeah.
So maybe start approaching life that way.
Yeah.
Being more human and only applying gender when it's necessary. Like in sex and in, things like that.
Yeah. From a very evolutionary biological standpoint, right? Like the reason that there's men and women is strictly from a reproductive standpoint.
Right.
Where there's plenty of examples in nature and out there in the world where there aren't, there's asexual creatures that exist that don't need another thing to procreate. They can do it all internally within themselves. Or do you know what I mean? Like I don't know them off the top of my head because I'm not that super smart scientist guy, but I know that they exist. And so the reason we have men and women is just strictly biological. It's just, that's what we evolved to, so that we could continue to procreate. And that may go away in 10,000 years, right? I'm a big firm believer that if suddenly all men were wiped off the face of the fucking planet, women would undoubtedly figure out how to fucking procreate. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that women would be just fine, and the species, the Homo sapiens, humans in general, would continue. Inversely, you wipe all the fucking women off the face of this earth, it'd be like 2 fucking weeks. The planet would be done.
Human race would be extinct forever.
There's no way that men would figure out a way to procreate. Because yes, we're smart, yes, we're intelligent, but we have this other part of us, like this biological evolutionary part as well, that is that masculine part, right? Like, you can't tell me that if suddenly all the women were gone, that we'd all just kind of sit back and take a big sigh of relief and be like, whew, I got rid of them bitches. Now we can get this stuff squared away.
Right.
That wouldn't happen.
No, no.
We would fucking destroy each other.
Absolutely.
But women would suddenly go, whew, thank God we don't have to deal with those assholes anymore.
Right.
Let's get shit done.
Yeah, I know quite a
and they
few.
would square things away.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, I think they'd figure out a way. And I mean, it would help because they got the uterus, right? But it would take us 10,000 years to come up with a way to procreate without women. And it would take them maybe 5.
Well, even on a different angle, I mean, I think we're really lost in the trivial notions. There's a lot of trivial things that we are, as a culture, we are very worried about. And here we are, we spent a good portion of this podcast talking about the universe and where it goes and where it takes us, what it delivers. If we're just a blip. I mean, if this life is just a blip, then even this conversation is just, for me, it's almost kind of silly. Because it at the end of the day, whatever energy that continues after this vessel is gone, I don't think it really means anything. My chauvinistic attitudes or not chauvinistic attitudes, I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
Do I condone what, or do I don't agree with a lot of shit. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of bad people in both sexes that do really bad things. And they take advantage when they can. And then there are those that get taken advantage of, and those are the people that we speak up for. Those are the people that we help. But I think men as a whole, I think we're still going to be, as long as this humanity is going and this boat is going, I think we're still going to be stuck in this process of, like a battle of the sexes, if you will. That, for me, that's like sexual charge. I mean, it's like it creates tension in the room. You know what I mean? The differences are unique. I think we should celebrate those differences instead of being so worried of like, well, I can do that too. Well, of course you can. You're fully capable and highly intelligent. It doesn't matter that you have different body parts. You can do this too. Why are we even wasting time worrying about what you can't do? So for me, then that's just where I want to turn off the news.
Yeah.
Like I'm just tired of hearing it, frankly. Because I mean, all the women in my life, they're very, very powerful women, and they would be. I don't think there's anything that I could physically do that they couldn't do. So what's the separation then? You know what I mean? What's the big difference other than like an Audi and Innie? It seems very preschool to say, but you know, what's like the major defining line? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my whole point. You know, it's like beyond sexuality. You know, why do we have to try so hard to be men?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe that's what's wrong with men is they're too busy trying to be men. You know.
Well, see, and that's the thing. I was raised on John Wayne. I don't know how many John Wayne movies I watched.
Instead of just being human.
Yeah.
Just be human.
Yeah. Like that's like Dan Doty, the founder of Everyman, right? Like that's his whole thing is it's not every man, it's like just everybody. Like this stuff that we implement and the things that we practice and the space that we create in this group, this would fucking work for anybody. It doesn't just work for men. There's no reason why it can't be every woman. It can't be every man. And at the end of the day, it's really just everybody, every human. Because, I mean, like for me personally, I feel more of a, not necessarily more of a man, just more of a like fucking good person. Yeah. Because of this group. Mm-hmm. Because I get this experience of being in emotion and practicing the things that we practice. And the amount of love and openness, and like you talked earlier about your heart opening up, right? When you come here and just being here, like that's human, right? That just feels good. You know, I'd love to think that we could have this group with women and men at the same time. I don't think it could happen right now necessarily, meaning not just us specifically, but I think the men's group out there that's going to be able to integrate women and still have it be what it is when it's just men. I don't know if that quite exists yet, but I think that's very, very possible. And I think that same thing, like I hope that I've talked to my wife about that before too, where it's like, you know, I wish you had this type of experience with other women. Yeah. Because, I mean, bless their heart, they got a slew of fucking problems themselves, right? We're masculine and we struggle with these masculine things, and women have women issues that are specific to being a woman simply because of society and the way that, you know, they've, you know, same thing that toxic masculinity over the past several generations. There's toxic femininity that's taken place as well. And the women have to process and not necessarily heal from that, but accept it and understand it and figure out how to, you know, make peace with that and practice just being human in a positive emotional way for their everyday life.
Well, that's the best part of this conversation is because it's true on both sides. Right now, we're just talking about the masculine because we're in a men's group and we're talking about a men's group. But I guarantee on the other side, there's many, many feminist issues, that they want to deal with and however, in whatever parameters they want to deal with. But this specific, it just makes me smile because it's amazing how upfront and then scaled back we get. My daughter has a boyfriend. And for me, it's like, does he get your car door? Does he get the front door? Well, for me, that's just a very natural, the way I was raised thing to do. But I was raised of like, that's what the guy does. He walks gutter side and everything else and takes your arm. And this isn't like, I'm not portraying like, oh, you're less than, let me guide you down the road because you won't make it without me.
There's plenty of women that would view it that way though.
And so that's where I think it's just silly.
It is silly.
It's silly and it's fun all in the same because I'm still going to get the car door. I don't know why it's innate. I rush to like if I'm going to a supermarket and I got to grab the door or something like that, or a convenience store, I rush to the door. It's just something that's innate in me. And you're right. There's probably going to come a day where somebody's going to be like, I can get my own fucking door. Well, I bet you can.
Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, that's very prevalent. I mean, fucking teenage daughter. Do you know what I mean? They joke and tease. It's like, I'm an independent woman. Yeah. They're joking and teasing. Yeah. Because it's silly stuff that we may be talking about at the moment. But it's also, they are being brought up and raised up in this current state of what's taking place in society. And that's very much the viewpoint. Where it's like, I don't need a fucking man to open my door. I don't need a man to do this. I don't need a man to do that. And you're very, very right. However, like there's part of it that I think is straight up in our fucking DNA. There's a reason, you know, men went out and killed shit. Yeah. And women stayed home.
Right.
And so that's going to be a hard thing to, I don't think that's something that we have to overcome. I think that's just something we have to make peace with.
think you can be aware of it. And the easiest thing to do is, if you're unsure, ask. It's always better to ask than assume.
Yeah. You're onto something big time right there too. That's been a lot of problems recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's your wise words, Mike.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
No, I think that's fantastic that your daughter's feeling that. I mean, my daughter's 18 and she's really in the heart of it right now. I mean, she walked away from church because of certain stipulations of like, these are our cardinal rules and you can't break these cardinal rules. And for her, she was coming from a place, I wouldn't say scientific or evolution, but she couldn't understand growth of humanity. How come you can't catch up too? But she's got, in my opinion, the best of both worlds. She's a very strong, capable woman. And good luck to the man that thinks that he's going to rein her in if that's what, the goal is, because it's just not going to happen. She's empowered and she knows what's happening out there.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I raised her to where automatically, if we're walking down the street, she's on the inset, and this is just the way that she raised. I mean, we talked about it earlier, right? We're the last generation where this is really happening. I don't think that's it. I think this is always going to happen. I think it is in our DNA. It's just innate. And that's not to say that a woman wouldn't want to protect or wouldn't want to do these things.
Oh yeah, there's plenty, obviously. Yeah,
they do. This is my nature. Like, I would much rather I go out and you brought up, hunter-gatherers getting food. I would much rather myself get killed or marred by a beast than my wife.
Yeah, but it didn't even have to do with the compassion part of you wanting to do that. It just had to do straight physicality.
Well, and that too.
Bigger, stronger, faster, more capable at killing whatever it was and bringing it fucking back to sustain life.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And I think also you got the womb, you got the uterus, you got the baby maker. So like we have to protect that because it's procreation.
Yeah.
Sustaining, the human race.
I can't wait till we move on as a society just to
I don't think we will.
Okay.
It's going to be the robots.
Yeah.
And AI. That's when we'll finally move on, because AI will come in and be like, you dumb motherfuckers, you've been wasting so much time on shit that don't matter.
You do realize I could have built that for you in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then maybe that's the case, right? Maybe our lives will be simplified by something like that. And we realize that we can get, I don't know, I either really want to get back to the basics, to where we're just existing, to where it is everyone. You're right, it doesn't need to be every man or every woman. I'd like to get back to the basics. But on the other side, I don't know. I think people love fuel, and people love fire. And so I think when things are calm and calm seas, people get very discontented. This doesn't seem like, wait a minute, what's happening? What's coming?
I'm reading that book. Are we monopolizing the conversation, guys?
No,
I'm sitting here staring at you and I feel bad.
No,
you good?
No. Talk away. Yeah, I'm interested.
I'm reading that book, Tribe.
Okay.
Sebastian Younger, I think is his name, the author of it. But he talks about that in the book where, some of the greatest times that people reminisce and talk about are war times, when everybody came together in moments of chaos and tribulation and really difficult things, because in those moments, that's when they come together and you forget about all the insignificant, the things that don't really fucking matter about life. You stop sweating the small stuff, because now we're just back into that state of survival. And it harbors and builds this sense of community and tribe and connection. And so people will actually, he's got, it's a wonderful book, and everybody I'm sure knows about it in some way, shape or form. If you don't, then go get it. But interviews and talking to people who suffered through, wartime in cultures and in society where it was, whether it was World War II or even some of the conflicts that have taken place in the Middle East and things like that. And they're like, yeah, like that was the best time. Like we missed those times because we were so close and so
that
connected.
Sense of unity.
Yeah. Shit was terrible on the outside and people were dying and it was horrible and we were frightened, but we really liked hanging out and being together and having these moments of close connection. And those are the times that they, actually kind of reminisce and miss. And it makes perfect sense on one hand. And on the other hand, you can also see the flip side of it too, where because we don't have those things, I think you were talking earlier about how we have, and when I say you, I'm looking at Steven. Like I always have to remind myself that the people don't fucking know who I'm talking about. But you talked about that earlier, where we have all of these needs taken care of in life now, right? The Wim Hof thing, where we don't have to struggle for food. We don't have to struggle for warmth or shelter or any of these things. And now our bodies are eating away at themselves, or, that's where disease and things can build up and take place.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I think that's mental illness. That was a big thing that he talks about in the book too, where mental illness actually goes down during wartime, where they would suspect that, they would have a higher rate of suicide and a higher rate of depression and all these type of things. And the reality was that it went down. And in the societies, and even like on a bigger scale where you have societies that are tribal in nature already, maybe not necessarily surviving war, but just existing in tribes that still exist today in the world, right? We still have cultures out there that are very tribal in nature. They don't have words for like suicide or depression because they don't have mental illness. It doesn't exist, not in the sense that they're, small-minded and don't have an intellectual understanding of it. It's just that shit doesn't fucking exist in their society because it doesn't develop, because they are sustaining life. And, we wake up and we got to do stuff so that we can live and survive.
Yeah.
We don't wake up and sit there and wonder, fuck, what am I going to do? What do I want with my life?
Yeah.
We live in misery and anxiety and our fucking bellies chew ourselves up because, they don't have that because they know what they're going to do. I got to get up and I got to go do this and I got to do that. And the whole time I'm doing all of those things, I got my fucking family, my friends, everybody's right there with me.
Yeah.
And so that tribal thing, and I think that's massive. I mean, that's how, like the overwhelming theme of his, not just his book, but his work in a sense, is that idea that humans are kind of designed to live in small tribal groups. Mm-hmm. And that's where we not just function best, but that's where we kind of really excel.
Yeah.
And it's society evolving to the point that it's at now. That's what's been such a major factor to our detriment, is because we have gotten away from those small tribal groups, living in all these houses and apartment buildings, and, months and months and months go by that I don't even fucking wave at my neighbors, even though I might see them.
Yeah.
Let alone talk to them.
Yeah.
Right? So
maybe that's why that whole tiny home movement might be a good thing for us. It kind of brings that sense of community back.
There's lots of that stuff going on now where, people are recognizing that aspect and they're trying to recreate it in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's wonderful. Do you know what I mean? I think the more of that we can get out there. I've always said, not always, I haven't always had this view, but I've always, I keep saying I've always, it's not something that I've had since I was 2 years old, but for a long time I've thought that, God, it would just really be nice if we could knock the world's population down to like 50,000 people. Like 50,000 people spread across the globe. I'd be all for that shit. I'd be happy if I was one of the 50,000. If I wasn't, no big deal, because energy goes on. But can you imagine, like,
your
50,000
perspective
people?
would be completely different. You'd be getting back to fundamentals just to
very,
survive.
very quickly, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully it wouldn't be The Walking Dead. Hopefully it would be like happy apocalyptic world where we can all live in harmony. And we can go back to those tribal states where we got to wake up and we got to go find some food, or we got to grow some vegetables and we got to get some water. We don't have to worry about fucking
what somebody said on Facebook.
Yeah, that fucking tweet or some fucking YouTube video that came out.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There was a comic book movie based roughly upon that idea, The Watchmen. I don't know.
Yeah,
where
loved The Watchmen.
he was making a decision for the greater good, which was wiping out a number of people, and using this other person as that catalyst, unifying the world as a whole. So he was controlling the population, reducing the population, and unifying everybody at the same time. And the whole debate about that was really, is it up to any one person to make that decision or do that? And is it ethical?
Yeah.
Because it was, when you said that, I felt like just this weird silence after you said wanting to reduce the number of people.
I did, like I said, I haven't always felt that way. And when I say I feel that way, I'm not a mad scientist. I'm not plotting the destruction of massive amounts of people. It's just an interesting idea. Do you know what I mean? That's where my brain goes sometimes, where I think about, like, what would it really be like? And there's parts of it that I'm sure would suck, right? I would hate not being able to just go home and crawl into my bed and wake up and take a piss and wash my hands and take a warm shower and drink my cold, not my cold coffee, my hot coffee in the morning. I would hate to not have that luxury and that comfort. But at the same time, not everybody's like me, but I would be real fucking happy sleeping on the dirt. And, I want to ride horses across the plains. I want to figure out how to kill something and feed my family with it.
I had a history teacher actually kind of touch upon that in a way, and that's kind of how he described war was kind of that natural way of us doing that was the number of people we usually lose in war. If that number of people were also alive and then were to continue to procreate, you would have you'd have a wider number of people than we currently have. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate to say it the way he said it, but he called it a necessary thing, right?
Yeah. Well, think about it from the perspective of forest fires, very common, very natural. They serve a purpose, right?
Right.
A forest fire will happen just by accident, just by natural happenstance, a strike of lightning or whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be a man-made created forest fire. And when it does beautiful things for the forest, right? Kills a ton of shit, but it makes that forest healthy, and that forest is better for it at the end of the day. And so maybe it is the universe's kind of sly way of not just managing the population of the planet, but keeping everything in check, right? Where maybe, because I think it does, like everything else in the world, war serves a purpose. However fucked up it may be, it's like everything else out there in my mind and in my perspective, it serves a purpose. And maybe that's part of it, where not just population control and management, but also the overall health of this greater organism that exists, this Mother Earth, this planet, our energy right here and right now. And so maybe it's just the way that everything's evolved to kind of keep itself in line and in check. Because I very much think that we are not in this, just in a straight up energetic way. We're all spinning together on this fucking ball with the energy of the ball. We're all serving a purpose in the greater grand scheme of the universe. And so it would make sense to me that somehow the higher consciousness or the subconscious or the fucking undertone frequency of that big ball of energy figured out a way to maintain itself even more so. And by doing so, we got to kill 100,000 people.
Doesn't mean I have to like it.
It sucks, right?
So it almost makes me want to take it back to the individual then. Because if you take the construct, the analogy of the forest, not the analogy, that's the truth. The forest burned down, then it gets stronger. War helps the populace and everything else. Those are, it's weird to look at war that way, but it's true. If you look at the individual, and if we even apply it to what we're doing here in the group, we bring a problem or a situation that one of us wants to work on, or I'll just even speak of myself as an individual. I want to work on, I have to light that shit on fire. I have to burn it and get it done. It has to be over. And I can't regrow. I can't regenerate. I can't spring from something if I haven't put something to bed. Because then it just piles on and it piles on and it piles on and it piles on. And then I get overwhelmed. And then I just get, I play the why me, or then what am I going to do, or whatever else. And then I just get lost in it because I haven't set some of that shit on fire. I haven't put things to bed. So like on a smaller scale as an individual, I think that's fantastic to think about. I love that thought of lighting myself on fire and regenerating and re-improving.
Yeah, burning the undergrowth so new stuff can grow.
Yeah, that's you all have witnessed me on that path the past 3 or 4 months. That's exactly what I've been doing. So, the power of this group.
Yes, gentlemen, I think we have gone on long enough. We could definitely sit here for, I'm sure, a couple more hours, but I want to smoke. So, does anybody, let's all close with something, whatever the fuck it is that you'd like to close with. Steven's got a date, so he's got to get the fuck out of here.
No, I got plenty of time. I'm good. Oh, boy. Wow.
Words of wisdom from a man that sat in the men's group.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
All right. So I've been sitting here thinking, we've been talking about the universe and, its purposes, and it's weird how, like, oh God, dude, how am I going to say this? Wow. All right. Okay, so I've gone, once we started talking about, the populace and war and like being part of this bigger organism, and life just being this energy that's going to continue. It's made me wonder, well, how significant is any of the things that we talk about in here? When I come in and like, I talk about how lonely I feel when I'm on a planet with like freaking 3 billion people or whatever the hell the freaking, 10 billion people, whatever. How could I possibly be lonely? And I wonder, well, why does the universe give a fuck if I'm lonely or not? And what is other? And I guess to kind of bring it all back around is that the parade is going to go on whether I want to watch it or not. And so I can either watch it and I can participate and I can enjoy it, or not, but it's going to happen anyway. So I guess my like words of wisdom would be, maybe the universe gives a shit about what happens to me personally or not. But what I can do is I can tap into that life and into that power and into that greater energy and good that is just life. And I can enjoy that parade. Or I can be a little bitch and I can sit in the corner and I can, cry about my problems and all that kind of stuff. Because, it's going to go on with or without me. It doesn't matter. As an individual, I guess the universe's gift to me is that happiness is there. I just got to reach out and take it. And that's a personal choice. And whether I end up being one of those people that burns in the next nuclear war, or if I survive on to, help colonize a small tribe,
Craig's plan for the apocalypse.
Yeah. Like that is, maybe the universe cares which one of those two scenarios works out for me in life. But in the meantime, I can make a conscious choice to love and to live and to make the most of whatever time I do have, so that would be my words of wisdom. Sun's gonna rise tomorrow, whether I want it to or not.
It is. It's coming up.
Yeah, and, so I might as well be happy about it, right?
It's good.
Simplify life.
What you got for us, Mike?
I think biggest thing I could come away from this would be to be open and receptive towards opportunities. If something approaches you that might test you or push your limits, this group was an opportunity for that. And so as by way of an example, I would say if you're ever provided with the opportunity and are introduced to such a group, to try it, and really try it by stepping out of your boundaries and letting go just to see what happens. That is all.
No, I like that. You just made everybody think for a moment. It's like, oh, shit.
Right.
Yeah, that just got real.
Sorry.
You should be. You really should be.
I am.
But the fact that you're killing it on your first podcast?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Man.
I mean, the audience can't see you shaking and everything,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm stinky. I feel bad for this guy.
Yeah, I'll burn that chair. Don't worry about it. Well, I got to make it lighthearted. Come on, man.
No, you got it.
Yeah. Oh, you want to know what I think?
Yeah. I want Will's words of wisdom.
I said it earlier, and it's something that I hold true, and it's just staying in my head. You have 100% success rate of getting through everything you've gone through up until this moment. No more wasted opportunities. That's really the way that I want to live, and I hope that's what, as a group, we bring in general. And I think that's why we're so candid about what we're thinking. I mean, none of us really pull punches. There's weeks where some of us we're a little calmer than others, but I think brutal honesty has been key. I think that's the biggest thing that I would really want people to focus on. It hasn't killed you. And that's not to take away from the mass amount of shit that you've been through, your childhood, or anything that you're still struggling to overcome or make sense of or conquer. Ask those hard questions. You're not going to get the answer that you need, and it might not be what you want. I suggest asking those hard questions. I suggest taking the harder route. I think you need to make those phone calls. You need to have those hard conversations, or you're going to be stuck in that perpetual wheel of what next, why now, and why me. I think it just happens, and I think we're built that way. We can live and die in that space. I dwelled in that space for a very long time, and I felt very selfish for a very long time. And I had to realize just that powerful statement of I have a 100% success rate of getting through everything that I've gone through up into this moment. And I feel personally I've been through lots of shit. And that's not taking away from anybody else what they've been through. But saying that empowers me to believe that if I've already gone through this, well, I like my success rate. I'm pretty up for the challenge. You know, I'm not asking the universe to throw me some wicked curveball right now by any
don't
means.
do it, man.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I made that mistake.
Yeah, this is why I'm loving watching you do this.
All right. Okay, good.
I think like that saying, you know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think we should change it. It's like whatever doesn't kill you. Like, wait a minute. Like if you're here and you're aware enough to read that fucking meme, you should realize nothing has fucking killed you.
What about maimed?
Like, you're a badass. Like literally everything you've faced in your life did not kill you.
Yeah.
You fucking survived. I'm 36 years old and I'm pretty fucking invincible because nothing has fucking killed me.
Yeah.
Everything I've done, I've made it through.
Even on top of what you do to yourself in your own mind.
Exactly. So thank you, gentlemen. This has been wonderful and fun. I've really, really enjoyed this. I'm sure undoubtedly somebody's going to listen to it and benefit from it. My takeaway or my advice, my words of wisdom from a man that sits in a men's group is like, slow down, always slow down. You know, life is always too fast. So slow down, be patient, and like remember that everything is a practice. And so somehow we forget that we're okay with practicing some things and failing at some things, but other things we're not. And life, I think, feels like that a lot of times where we're not okay with the fact that life is a practice. So slow down, be patient, and remember that everything is a practice, including life. So go easier on yourself.
Yeah.
Aho.
Wow, good. Nice.
Everybody go out and have a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful day.
I feel like we are kind of that last generation of what's been described as toxic masculinity, where we've just had this upbringing where men are men. We don't cry. We don't complain. We just do our job and we do it well, you know, and if we don't do it well, then we're failures.
It's brought back that feeling of community that was really missing in my life. It's amazing how much you can suppress that you don't really face and you don't think about.
When you open your heart and you open your mind, all sorts of crazy shit starts to either happen or was already happening and now you really see it.